The North Atlantic in December was no place for the faint-hearted. Gale winds howled across the iron-gray sea, and the daylight, when it appeared at all, lasted scarcely 3 hours before the polar night swallowed everything again. Yet through this merciless world crept a chain of 15 merchant vessels, tankers, freighters, ammunition, carriers, each one packed to the rails with cargo for the Soviet war effort. Crates of rifles and aircraft engines, crates of canned food and medical supplies. The convoy bore the codename JW51B. It had left Loch Awe in Scotland on December 22, 1942, under the command of Captain William Dowding aboard the merchant flagship Empire Archer. At its side steamed the escort group led by Commander Robert Sherbrooke in HMS Onslow. Sherbrooke's orders from the Admiralty were short but absolute. Keep the convoy together. Deliver it intact to Kola Inlet. His escort force was modest, a handful of destroyers: Onslow, Obdurate, Obedient, Orwell, Achates, 2 minesweepers, and a pair of small trawlers fitted with depth charges. They were tough ships but lightly armed compared with the rumored German heavy units stationed in Norway. Sherbrooke knew this. Still, he trusted discipline and tactics more than brute strength. "We are the shield," he told his officers before departure. And a shield must never break. From the first day at sea, the Arctic reminded them who ruled these waters. Mountains of ice drifted like ghosts in the gloom. Snow fell so thickly that lookouts wiped their goggles every few seconds, only for frost to reclaim them. Salt spray froze the moment it touched steel. Men chipped it away constantly to keep gun mounts from locking solid. Inside the mess, condensation froze on the bulkheads. The air smelled of diesel, coffee, and fear. Despite the conditions, the convoy maintained tight formation. The ships sailed in 2 columns, about half a mile apart, moving barely 9 knots. Between them weaved the destroyers, their radar antennas spinning slowly in the dark. Sherbrooke spent hours on the bridge, his gloved hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the black horizon. He knew the enemy was out. There somewhere, perhaps beneath the waves, perhaps hidden beyond the snow curtain. Each night, reports crackled in from escort trawlers. Faint sonar contacts, vanishing echoes. U-boats, depth charges were dropped. Distant thuds rumbling through the hulls. No kills confirmed, but the tension never eased. Christmas passed without ceremony. Some ships strung, a few lanterns below deck. Others shared a rationed sip of rum. But no one sang. The Arctic swallowed all sound. By December 29th, the convoy had reached the approaches to the Barents Sea. The wind shifted north, bringing blizzard conditions and nearly zero visibility. It was both a curse and a blessing. German aircraft could no longer spot them, but neither could the escorts see one another. Communication depended entirely on radio, and even that was drowned by static. Sherbrooke made a decision that would later define the battle. To protect the convoy if attacked, he divided his destroyers into 2 groups. Force A, under his direct command, Onslow, Obdurate, Orwell, would guard the starboard side. Force B, led by Achates and Obedient, would protect the port side and deploy smoke screens if needed. It was a classic Royal Navy tactic, a moving wall of steel and smoke designed to draw fire away from the defenseless merchantmen. "If the enemy comes," he wrote in his logbook that night, "we will fight him with confusion, not strength." Unbeknownst to Sherbrooke, his plan would soon be tested. Hundreds of miles away, the German heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper was already cutting through the same storm, closing the distance fast. On the morning of December 30th, the convoy encountered a new enemy, the sea itself. A violent gale scattered the ships across miles of ocean. Visibility dropped to less than 300 meters. Radar signals bounced erratically off ice and snow. Sherbrooke cursed the weather, but refused to halt. Stopping meant freezing. He ordered the convoy to maintain course due east toward Bear Island. Throughout the day, the crews fought the storm. Men were blown overboard and lost instantly. A cargo ship's deck gun was torn from its mount. Another lost a lifeboat to the wind. Yet morale held. Each man understood what was at stake. "If we stop," one sailor muttered, "Stalin stops." By evening, JW51B was stretched thin but still intact. The gale began to ease, and with it came a deceptive calm. The horizon turned silver under the aurora. Chunks of ice drifted lazily around the hulls. The exhausted sailors allowed themselves a fragile moment of relief. Then the radar operator aboard Onslow noticed something strange: two faint blips approaching from the southwest, moving fast. Sherbrooke leaned over the display. Range? About 20 miles, sir. Possibly destroyers. He stared at the flickering screen. No. Allied ships should be there. His gut tightened. Sound action stations. Across the convoy, alarms wailed. Men scrambled to their positions, boots thudding on frozen decks. Gun crews uncovered their weapons. Torpedo tubes swung into firing position. Smoke generators hissed to life, preparing for the inevitable. For hours, the contacts came and went in the blizzard. Sometimes they vanished entirely, then reappeared closer. Sherbrooke had no confirmation yet, perhaps icebergs, perhaps ghosts. But instinct told him otherwise. Somewhere beyond the white curtains, steel giants were hunting them. At 3 o'clock hours on New Year's Eve, the wind died completely. A silence settled over the sea, so deep that men could hear the ice crack against the hulls. Then, faintly, a new sound drifted through the stillness, the distant boom of heavy guns testing elevation. Not thunder, artillery. Sherbrooke looked up from his binoculars. "They've found us," he said quietly. Moments later, a dull orange flash ignited the horizon, followed by another and another. The Germans had arrived. Shells began to fall short, geysers of water erupting near the convoy. The escorts turned toward the muzzle flashes, guns ready. The Battle of the Barents Sea had begun.